Sometimes the most terrifying stories start in the most ordinary ways. With a teenage girl, a house on a quiet street called Whispering Cliffs Drive, and just a simple favor that would end up being a total nightmare. It was nothing, really, just a simple favor for her aunt. Watch the house, take care of the pets. For a 16-year-old, that's a big deal, A little taste of freedom and responsibility. It was supposed to be a totally quiet, easy weekend. So, let's set the scene. It's Friday, September 22nd, 2006. 16-year-old Cassie Jo Stoddart is settling in for the night, and everything is completely normal. Now, the house is a little bit out of the way, but she's not alone. Her boyfriend Matt comes over to hang out, and pretty soon 2 more of their friends, Brian and Tori, show up too. It's just a classic Friday night for a bunch of teenagers, right? A big house all to themselves, a few friends, a movie, the kind of night you just don't forget. So after about 2 hours, Brian and Tori decide they're gonna head out, go catch a movie at the local theater. Seems totally normal. But on their way out, one of them does something really small, something nobody would ever notice. He quietly unlocks the basement door. And it wasn't long after those 2 left that the whole vibe of the house it started to change. That normal Friday night was about to get completely fractured by something sinister. And just like that, bam, the entire house plunges into darkness. 1 second, you're watching a movie, and the next, there's just this thick, heavy blackness and silence. You know what you do in that moment, right? You try to explain it away. Oh, it's just an old house, probably just the wiring. Anything to calm that rising panic. Matt looked around, couldn't find anything wrong. And then, just as suddenly as it went out, the power flickered back on. They tried to just shake it off and go back to the movie, but that uneasy feeling, it doesn't really go away. The lights coming back on might have been enough to fool them for a second, but the dog knew better. It just stood there, fixated on the basement door, with this low growl rumbling in its chest. Animals, they just know when something's wrong. So at this point, Cassie is understandably pretty freaked out. Matt sees how scared she is and calls his mom to ask if he can just stay the night. His mom says no, but offers to let Cassie come stay with them instead. But Cassie, being responsible, felt like she couldn't leave the animals. It was such a small decision, but it would have these unbelievable, horrifying consequences. I mean, just look at how fast her entire world came apart. At 10 o'clock, her friends leave. 15 minutes later, the first power outage. By 10:30, her boyfriend Matt, her only sense of security, is gone. And just a few minutes after that, the house goes dark again. Only this time, she is completely, utterly alone. And get this, as Matt is driving away from the house, he calls Tori to see what's up. Tori answers the phone, but he's whispering, his voice really low. And to Matt, it made perfect sense. Oh, he's in the movie theater. Of course he's whispering. But he wasn't in a movie. He was back inside that house, hiding in the dark, just feet away from Cassie. Because while Cassie was sitting in that dark, silent house, absolutely terrified, the truth of what was really going on was being recorded on a videotape. The 2 boys who had supposedly left for the movies, they weren't at the movies. They were back, and they had a script. These are their own words, from a video they recorded the day before. There's no hesitation, no remorse. They're talking about their friend, a girl they hang out with, and they're calling her a victim, a sacrifice, as if she isn't even a real person, just a character in some twisted fantasy. Her being alone wasn't an accident. It was the entire point. They were giddy about it, talking about how perfect it was. They saw that big remote house not as a home, but as the perfect stage for the horror show they were about to create. And this is where fantasy and reality just completely collapsed for them. They saw themselves as characters in a horror movie, a movie that they were directing, starring in, and bringing to life. A total and complete disconnect from what they were actually about to do. Their plan was chillingly methodical.
After they left Cassie's house, they just drove down the road a bit, changed into dark clothes and masks, and slipped right back inside through that basement door they'd left unlocked. So they were in the house the entire time. When the power went out, when the dog was barking, when Matt left, they were there, in the dark, just waiting.
The second they knew she was alone, they made their move. They came up from the basement, from the very spot the dog had been growling at. This wasn't a prank to scare her anymore. They were armed, their faces were hidden, their intentions were now deadly clear.
A short time later, they were back in their car, driving away from Whispering Cliffs, and they turned their camera on. Again. It's been just over an hour since Matt got picked up. In that short, terrifying window of time, everything has changed, and the camera is rolling. The performance is over, and this is their immediate reaction, this breathless, bizarre mix of excitement and shock. The first thing they need to do, for the camera, for themselves, is to confirm the reality of what they've just done. Then comes the brutal, graphic confession, and it's recounted with this chilling, detached clarity. The victim of their fantasy now has a face, a lifeless body that he has just seen with his own eyes. And then, just as quickly as that adrenaline-fueled high began, the tone shifts. The cold, hard reality of the consequences starts to creep in. The movie is over, and now they have to figure out how to get away with it. The fantasy just shatters, replaced by a desperate scramble to cover their tracks. They attacked her with 2 knives. She was stabbed approximately 30 times. A brutal, senseless end to a young life. All for the sake of a twisted, real-life horror movie.